Hello everyone, welcome back to my Thrifty Kitchen. My name is Emily and this is week 2 of feeding my family for the whole month and building my pantry with $400. If you didn't see last week's video, I will have that link down below as well as in one of these corners. That video has my initial grocery haul where we started out with $400. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner for my family for the whole week. And at the end of that video is what we had left to roll over into this week. If you don't want to hear me talk for the next couple minutes, you can head on over to whatever time I have here. And also, just like in most of all my other videos, I do have everything timestamped in case you need to come back to a specific day later. I will have the updated PDF Google Drive links down below. Someone did mention that I did not have the ground turkey for my last haul on there. The price was included in that total, but I did my best to put everything on that sheet and apparently I just missed something. And there was also a half a pound of ground turkey that I had left over from last week. When I was putting all my groceries away, I left it out on the counter and it wasn't good anymore by the time that I noticed it. So that will be taken off of our list of ingredients, unfortunately. Also, I am sick again. At least at the time of filming most of the first half of this video, I was super sick, my family was sick, everything was a mess. I even considered taking a pause for a few days, but I thought, you know what, I'm gonna push through, I'm gonna make it happen. So I really tried to get a cohesive video together this week for you guys, but there's a little more voiceovers, a little more music than I normally have in here. And I still think I don't have most of my voice back, but I'm doing my best and I'm pushing through. As with last week's video, if I don't have the exact recipe, and it is my recipe, I will have it linked down below. And any other recipes that I use that are not mine, I will have those linked down below as well. Breakfast and lunches this week are much of the same of what we had last week. So the step-by-step of those isn't in there just for the sake of longevity because these are really long videos. But the kids had lots of grilled cheeses, peanut butter sandwiches, snack plates with apples, cheese, hard-boiled eggs, etc. And anything else that required cooking, I did film that and put that in the video. So just those few disclaimers out of the way, let's get into all of these meals. For the hot sauce, I washed all of my jalapenos, cut the tops off. I de-seeded half of them. I left the 2 big ones with the seeds. We're going to throw those in a pot. I have about 1/4 of an onion here. I'm going to put that in here. Okay, I'm adding 1 cup of water. 1/2 tablespoon of garlic powder. 1 full tablespoon of salt. I also realized I forgot to show this in my leftovers as well. So, still got salt. And we're going to do 2 tablespoons of white vinegar and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And then I'm just going to put a lid on this. Put it on the stove to boil for about 20 or 30 minutes. And then I also have 4 of the larger potatoes, peeled and diced. These are going to go on the stove, taking them boiling for some potato salad. Okay, so it has been 20 minutes. I brought it up to a boil, stirred it, and let it simmer for 20 minutes. I turned off the heat. I'm going to let it sit here on the burner and just cool on its own for probably an hour and really just combine all those flavors. And then once it's cool, I'm going to blend it and then we'll see if it needs any more salt or vinegar. Okay, so I have my cooled potatoes. This is 1/2 of an onion diced up and 2 things of celery. I'm going to put those in here. Once again, I should definitely have a bigger container for this, but I didn't want to dirty another bowl. And I'm just going to sprinkle in some garlic powder, some black pepper, some salt. Usually I would use mustard in here, but I don't have mustard. And I also really like hard-boiled eggs in my potato salad. But because I only have 2 eggs left, I'm not going to use it in here. I really want to make another loaf of bread today as well, so I need an egg for that, and probably something else. Just gonna stir this up as best I can. Taste is quite good. Maybe I put a teeny tiny too much salt. I don't know. But I'm gonna put a little paprika on that just to sit on the top. And I'm gonna put this in the fridge and it'll be perfect and ready to go for lunch tomorrow. Okay, I'm getting started on dinner. I took those chicken thighs and I deboned them and took the skin off. I'm keeping the bones in a bag. I'm gonna put these back in the freezer. And then I seasoned these with oregano, garlic powder, and paprika, and salt and pepper on both sides. And then I'm just going to sprinkle a little flour on these on both sides and just kind of let it sit in there for a few minutes and soak in. Okay. And this doesn't need to be coated like a batter, like we're frying it, because we're not frying it. I just feel like this might give it a little bit of crispiness when we cook it. Okay, and I'm just gonna let that sit there for about 10 minutes while I get some other stuff going. And I forgot to update, my jalapeno salsa is done. I blended it after it cooled off and it fits perfectly in this pint jar. So I'm gonna store this in the fridge and it'll be ready to go when I want to use it. Okay, so we have our oiled cast iron over here, and I'm just gonna put these chicken thighs down. I'm gonna cook them for about 4 minutes on each side. Yes, my love. Oh, is it locked? No. Okay. And over here I have some water boiling, salted and oiled, and I'm gonna cook half of my spaghetti noodles. Okay, over here we've got our chicken off to the side, and I'm just gonna get all of the bits, the flavored bits and fats off the bottom of the pan. And that was 3 tablespoons of margarine. So I'm gonna add a couple tablespoons of flour. You just want to cook the flour well. And our noodles are almost done, so I'm going to grab some of this water and finish cooking up that flour and deglaze the pan. And whisk this all together well. All right, I'm gonna reduce the heat and let this cook for a couple minutes and then drain the pasta while that's going. Okay, I'm gonna season this with a little garlic powder and some oregano. And we've got a really nice thick roux here. And we're gonna go in with some milk because we need to use some of this up. I think just a little bit more milk, and I'm gonna let this cook for 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll see if we need any more salt or pepper. Okay, so this definitely needs some more flavor. I know I'm gonna need some more milk as it thickens up, but right now I wanna get it seasoned really well. So I'm gonna add about a half cup of this sharp cheddar cheese. a decent amount of salt. It's probably 1/4 teaspoon. I'm gonna put in some lemon juice. Probably a full tablespoon. And a bunch of black pepper. Stir, stir, stir. I want to get this cheese nice and melty, and then we'll go in with a bit more milk to thin it out and let it cook for probably 10 minutes or so. Okay, our sauce is complete. I'm gonna stir our noodles in here. Okay, this is stirred in there really well. I've got some broccoli roasting in my mini oven. I'm turning my heat all the way down, and I'm just gonna put this chicken on top of here. Put a little color on it, some oregano, and some paprika. I'm gonna put a lid on this, get that chicken nice and hot again, and then when the broccoli's done, we will be ready to eat. All right, and here is dinner tonight. We have our cheesy cream sauce spaghetti with chicken thighs and some roasted broccoli. I did finish this with a little salt and lemon juice just to brighten it up a little bit. And I think and there are 0 leftovers from this meal.
Apologies for the terrible image quality here. That was not my intention, but obviously I did not film this portion. I just took a picture. This is my mini grocery haul I got at Walmart. I only got enough stuff to get me through the next few days because I did not go shopping until Friday, and there were some specific ingredients I wanted to use up, and I didn't want to overload myself with a bunch of options. My total for this was $43.83. And everything that I got, including the prices, is on my grocery haul PDF link down below. Lunch today, I want to make a chicken fried rice. Well, kind of fried rice. I don't have any day-old rice, so I do have to make it fresh, unfortunately. But I wanted to use the meat from these chicken drumsticks. So I had some leftover bones that I had in my freezer, and I'm going to make some broth at the same time that I'm cooking the drumsticks in my Instant Pot. I'm just adding a little bit of water so that it comes up to pressure and seasoning with salt and pepper. And then I cooked it for right around 25 minutes on high pressure. Once that chicken was done, I took the meat off of the bones and put the bones and skin back into the pot. Added about 2 quarts more water and pressure cooked that on high for another hour so that I could get some more chicken broth to cook with because at this point I was out. I made a stir fry sauce with some vinegar, brown sugar, soy sauce, garlic powder, and chili powder. And while that was cooking, I chopped up all the chicken that I pulled off the bones. And I strained out the broth and used the Instant Pot to cook some fresh rice. This is about a cup and a half of rice. And this is how my chicken broth turned out. I think it looks really nice, and there's quite a bit of it there too. Next, I added a little bit of oil to the pan, as well as some cut up carrots, onions, and some of those frozen peas. I just put a little seasoning on that, but kept it super basic. Then I waited until the veggies had softened up a little bit and added the chicken to it. And next, I needed to cook the stir fry sauce. I thought it would be really delicious with a bit of a buttery flavor, so I added a couple tablespoons of margarine to the pan and kind of separated everything else off to the side. And I softened the margarine and poured in the stir fry sauce and let that cook for a few minutes. After that sauce was cooked for a few minutes and thickened up and the brown sugar was melted, I added that fresh rice in there and mixed everything together. I tried to do it gently just to make sure that the rice did not mush up in there because obviously it doesn't fry up as nice as day-old rice. But this was really delicious. This is how I plated it up. I topped it with a little bit of fresh green onion, and this was delicious and very filling. Then after lunch, I needed to get some prep for dinner started. I made a double batch of my simple white sandwich bread. I will leave the recipe linked for that down below. It's very similar to, sorry, my baby is singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in the background. But it's very similar to my other bread recipe that I shared. It's just made without egg, but the process is exactly the same as the other. I just put it in the bread machine on the dough cycle, let it rise, and pull it out and form it. I made 2 separate dough balls for some pizza crust, and I did a lot of keeping tiny hands away from crushing all of my dough this time around. But this pizza dough, I oiled up a little plastic container, put the lid on it, and I stored this in the fridge for a few hours. And then the other third of the dough, I rolled it up into a loaf pan shape. I put it in a parchment lined loaf pan and scored the top, put a towel over that, let it sit and rise. And then when it was ready, I baked it the same way I bake all of my other loaves of bread. I know I've said it 1,000 times, but I will leave the video that I made specifically for how I make bread linked below.
Okay, so it is time to make dinner. I've got my dough out of the fridge. I'm just going to let it come closer to room temperature so it's not as difficult to work with. Set that over there. I'm gonna cut up half of this block of mozzarella. Thank you. Did you make me an ice cream cone? I love it. Thank you. What flavor is it? Does it have a cherry on top? Oh, I love it. Thank you. It's very delicious. I'm gonna shred up half of this cheese, and I'm gonna cut up a tomato, some cucumber, and some carrots, and make a salad with some of that lettuce that I got. I am going to make some pizza sauce. I like a nice thick pizza sauce. So we're going to use some tomato paste. This is the big can, and it's about a half of that. And then we're going in with some crushed tomatoes, a little oil, and then we're going to season it with some salt, oregano. Italian seasoning would be better, and garlic powder. And then I'll pretty much just add more tomato paste if I want it thicker, or add more crushed tomatoes if I want it thinner. But I feel like for the most part that's pretty good. I might add a little bit more of this just to thin it out a teeny tiny bit. But that's pretty good. Okay, so I have a hot pad down here and a towel, and I'm gonna get my cast iron pans out of the oven. Over here and over here, and these are oiled and super duper hot. And I'm gonna try and get these on here without making them oblong. Okay, that's pretty good. And then this pan's a little smaller. I tried to make it fit right, but it's probably too big. That's okay. The kids like a lot of crust, so they'll probably do this one. And I'm just gonna stab it with a fork a few times to try to make sure it doesn't rise too much. This is just a normal like bread dough. This isn't especially a pizza dough, so it is probably gonna puff up more. But that's okay. And then I'm just gonna put toppings on these. Okay, I have my pizzas out of the oven. They are extremely hot right now, and I don't want to cut them and just have all of the cheese melt off. So I'm letting them rest a little bit on these trays so that the bottom stays nice and crispy. And I'm gonna mix up my salad. Okay, and this is dinner tonight. This is making me realize I need to get Parmesan cheese and crushed red pepper on my grocery list for the future. But I don't know, this pizza looks pretty good. I could have went and spent $20 on it somewhere, but I made it here and it looks delicious. And this is actually like really, really thick too. The kids are going to be super pumped. So, yeah, Friday pizza night. Okay, it is currently 8:30. My husband is already at work. We had to go in early today anyways, so I'm making breakfast a little late. We're gonna have French toast. I'm gonna bring some in to him, and I'm disappointed because one of my eggs is broken and I didn't catch it, so that's a bummer. It's just on the bottom. So I'm gonna start with 2 eggs, some milk, cinnamon, a little bit of salt, some brown sugar. Usually I would use white sugar, but I don't have that yet, so that will be reserved for next week. Because I'm gonna get some white sugar for that. Mix this up. This is what we have left of the loaf of bread from yesterday. My kids had some as a snack after school. Sometimes we do peanut butter, sometimes we have grilled cheese, sometimes we just do butter, well, margarine, and cinnamon and sugar. My daughter really likes that. Now that we have the cinnamon, she was really excited. Have that as a snack after school yesterday. I don't know if I'm gonna make all of this French toast, but I did slice all of it. Okay, so it did take most of the rest of the bread to use up this mixture. So I'm gonna save this for maybe some toast or cinnamon sugar toast or something later. Peanut butter sandwich for the kids to share. We're having leftovers for lunch today, so that will be there in case they need anything else to fill their little bellies today. So all 4 of these pieces are going in this container. For my husband, I'll probably put the syrup directly on it too. And then these are for the kids. They usually like to eat them kind of as French toast sticks and just dip them. So I'm gonna do that. And I don't know if I've said this in this series yet, but as a lot of you know, I'm not a breakfast eater. I usually start around lunchtime, maybe have a little snack or extended lunch, like a second serving of lunch, and then I have dinner. I don't eat in the morning. It doesn't make me feel good. So this is for the kids. This is for my husband that we're gonna bring to him once he gets done eating. And then I might show you our leftovers for lunch. I don't know. It just depends on what I have and if we all eat at the same time or not. And then it'll be dinner. All right, so for dinner tonight, I want to use up the rest of this carnitas and potatoes and the beans. That's why I had made sure to throw these in the freezer with the meat a while back after it got done, because I wanted to extend it. But it's probably only got about 2 days left on it before it's not going to be good anymore. So I'm going to get this done. I'm going to make a filling with this and make some quesadillas and shred up some cheese. I'm going to make a sauce, kind of like an enchilada sauce, with some of the chicken broth and the leftover tomato sauce. I'm going to make some rice on the side. My daughter said she wants some rice. Then I've got this corn that we made and some hot sauce. So that's going to be dinner tonight. So I have the pinto beans in here. I poured some of that chicken broth to thin them out, and they're heating up. And then I'm going to mash them and stir them really quickly to make them more like a refried bean. And then over here, I'm making something similar to an enchilada sauce. Just going to use the rest of this chicken stock and some of this crushed tomatoes. And I'm just going to season it with probably about 2 tablespoons of chili powder, about a teaspoon of cumin, some garlic powder, another teaspoon or so, and a little oregano. Usually I would use onion powder, maybe a couple other things. I have an actual recipe for an enchilada gravy that I did in a video that was all about sauces. I'll link that below because that has a link to some PDFs that I did for some sauce recipes, which is a good reference if you need to make some sauces from scratch. So basically I'm just gonna let this cook, see if it needs any more seasoning as it goes, and gonna simmer it until it thickens up a little bit, and that will just be our sauce. So this mixture I'm going to heat up in the microwave just a little bit so that it has a bit of a head start, and then I'm going to fill it into these tortillas and cook them on my griddle. Okay, breakfast this morning, Sunday. We're having a late breakfast. We're skipping lunch today and just gonna have a really big dinner because we've got quite a bit of stuff to do today, so I don't want to stop in the middle of the day and cook. So if we need a snack, we'll have a snack, but we have cheese grits, scrambled eggs, and homemade drop biscuits. I'll leave the recipe that I used for these with any of the other recipes I have linked down below. It would obviously be better with some bacon or sausage or something, but that's fine. This will be plenty filling, and we'll see you for dinner. All right, so tonight for dinner, we are making a version of chicken paprikash. It's obviously not going to be traditional chicken paprikash, but we're working with what we got. So this is 1/3 of an onion blitzed up in my manual food chopper. And this is 4 tablespoons of margarine melted up. And I'm going to cook up these onions for a few minutes and soften them up. And then over here I have some water boiling. It's got salt in it. And I made some egg noodles. I have an entire video about how I make these noodles. I will link that below. But this is 1 cup of flour, 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of milk, and a little bit of salt. That's the ratio I have because the recipe in that video is for a larger batch, but if you need to do a smaller batch, that's kind of the ratios that I use. Eventually, when this water boils, these are going to go in there. And this 1 egg and 1 cup of flour makes about 6 ounces of pasta, which probably wouldn't be enough for my whole family, but I'm going to make some rice, so some people can have rice and some people can have noodles, whatever they want. It's been about 3 minutes. These are getting softer. We're going to put in these seasonings. Go ahead and pour it in. This is 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 teaspoons of paprika, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a half a teaspoon, or more like a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And we're just going to stir that into the onions really well. I'm also going to add about a tablespoon of that tomato paste to bring out a bunch of these seasonings. And then to help make sure all of this cooks evenly, I'm just going to add a teeny bit of this chicken broth. Okay, now mix that up really good, Seema. And then we're just going to cook this for 3 or 4 minutes. Let the spices bloom. Let the tomato paste bring out a bunch of those natural flavors. And then we will move on to our next step. Okay, all of this has cooked up really well. I'm just going to slowly start adding chicken broth until it gets to be thinned out and everything has combined really well. And this is just going to be kind of like a thick sauce. That was probably 1.5 cups total, including what we initially added to the flour and spices. All right, now that this has thickened up really well, I've got 2 of those chicken breasts chunked up. I sliced down the pieces a little bit thinner before I chopped them up. And these chicken breasts were really small, so this is probably more like one of those really big ones. And this is just gonna go in here. And there's gonna be a lot of moisture released from this chicken, so that will help thin out the sauce a little bit too, because it is still getting thicker as it cooks because of all the flour. So I just wanna make sure this is covered really well, mixed up. And this is probably going to cook for maybe 15 minutes. Okay, I am going to cover this. My water's boiling, so I'm going to get my noodles going, and I have some rice going on the stove over here too. So here are all of our components. Here's our chicken in the sauce. This took about 15 minutes to make sure everything was cooked through. There were a couple bigger pieces that were not done completely initially, so I just checked multiple size pieces for temperature. Got our noodles over here. I left a little bit of water in there and put a tablespoon or so of butter. I have some peas. These were the frozen peas. I just cooked those in a glass dish in the microwave. There's a little butter in there too, and water. I just leave it in there so nothing sticks together and everything stays hydrated. And then here's about 2 cups of rice. 1.5 cups of rice, I think it was, and 3 cups of water. And then I put some butter in there too. So this is everything for dinner tonight. And I am going to show you what my plate looks like. And here is my plate. I did noodles and rice because I'm a carby girl. Got some chicken and sauce. Got some peas on the side. This is going to be so good. This sauce was amazing. I'm so glad I put the tomato in there. It's delicious. So the only thing that would make this better is a big piece of crusty bread, but I don't have a ton of flour left, and to be honest, I didn't want to make any bread today. I made egg noodles. That was good enough. This is my daughter's plate. She plated it up herself. She's not really into sauce all the time, but I think that looks really, really good. Okay, so this is the beginning of lunch for my husband and I. This is 1 chicken breast and 1 1/4 cup of elbow noodles, and I cooked it in a little bit of chicken bouillon powder and salt and pepper. And I'm gonna let this cool a little bit, and I'm gonna add the rest of the Italian dressing, as well as some cucumber, carrots, and green onion, and make a little bit of a pasta salad. And then I'm gonna serve this over some romaine. Here is my lunch. This isn't even half of the pasta salad, so this isn't a very calorically dense lunch, and I might even go get a little bit more. I don't know. But this is definitely going to be filling with all these noodles. Dinner tonight, I'm making some meat sauce spaghetti, maybe as a bake, I don't know. But this is half a pound of that ground turkey. I cooked it up in the Instant Pot, drained it, and that is some onion and carrots that I blitzed up. And then I'm taking the rest of that crushed tomato, putting that in there, some garlic powder, some oregano, and I'm gonna do some salt and pepper. And then I'm also gonna add about a half a cup of water to that. Stir it up, and then I am going to put this on a pressure cook for probably 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes should be fine. Usually I like to make my pasta sauce over the course of an hour or two, let it boil, and then the flavors combine really well. But when I'm short on time, I do it in my Instant Pot, and this works really well. In the meantime, I have the rest of my elbow noodles over here cooking. These are cooking in chicken bouillon because if the kids don't want the red sauce, I've got all these that I need to use up anyways, so I'm just gonna make this as butter noodles, and then if they don't eat it, they can have it for lunch tomorrow. And then I've got the rest of my spaghetti over here, and this is almost done as well. Y'all, I wish you could smell this sauce. It smells so good. I can already tell the carrots added a nice little bit of sweetness. Usually I add a little brown sugar or something, but I figured the carrots would do the trick. Our noodles are done, so let's assemble. I'm going noodles. I think I'm gonna do this in layers. Add a little noodle there with the sauce. I was worried that there might not be enough meat in here, but I think that the onions and carrots kind of helped fluff it up a little bit, made it nice and thick. Okay, and then I shredded up some cheddar cheese and some of that mozzarella cheese. I'm gonna put that in here. The rest of the noodles. By the way, my trick to keeping pasta from sticking together is turning it off a little bit before it's completely done, draining most of the water and just adding some oil, butter, or some type of fat to the water and mixing it up really well. Like, it won't overcook, but it also won't stick together, because I used to really, really hate when my noodles would stick together. Could I have just put noodles and sauce on a plate? Yes. Sometimes I feel like if you take an extra step or two, it really does make it a different dish. I think I used entirely too much cheese in the middle. Oh well. All right, I'm gonna put this in the oven on broil. Just let that cheese get melty, and then it'll be ready. This actually looks amazing. It got a little waterier. It got a little waterier than I expected it to, but that's okay. Not really sure if that's because of the pasta or what. And I definitely could have let it sit for a few minutes to kind of come together, but we're hungry. So this is going in my bowl. All right, there we go. It doesn't look like much, but it smells really good. I'm really excited to eat it, and I have some cucumbers and carrots set out on the table. I was gonna do a salad, but decided against it, and the kids just want the butter noodles with some garlic powder on it. So that's what we're doing for dinner tonight. Lunch today, I still have that lunch meat that I got, the discount lunch meat that I need to use up. I put it in the freezer right away because that day that I bought it, the last day supposedly to use it was the next day. And because I don't know how long it was sitting in the deli case. I wanted to make sure I put it in the freezer right away if I wasn't going to use it. So that's what I did. And I realized it was still sitting in there. And the whole reason I bought it is because my family asked for sandwiches. And then no one reminded me they asked for sandwiches. And I kind of forgot. Now here it is, the last day before I need to go grocery shopping, and I haven't used it. And we need lunch. And if I was planning ahead, I would have made some bread. But I wasn't planning ahead. And now I need some type of bread for sandwiches. Wow, that's not in frame at all. My bad. So what I am doing is making a quick like flatbread / tortilla. This is 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and ½ teaspoon of salt. Should be close to 2 cups of flour. I think my baby ran off with my 1 cup measuring cup. I don't know. But this is gonna be weird, and I normally make these with sourdough discard, but they're like a pourable tortilla. They work in a pinch. The texture is totally different, but they're awesome if you need a quick bread last minute. I am going to do 4 tablespoons of oil. I just want to make sure there's enough oil in there so they're not going to stick. And then it'll probably be right around 1.5 cups of water, but I'm going to add that slowly in and just stop when it's thin enough. Okay, that's 1 1/3 so far. I haven't used them for this before, but I think they would be excellent with cinnamon and sugar, because this is kind of like a pancake mix. Okay, we need a little bit more. And to be honest, this is a guesstimation on ingredients, because like I said, I usually make these with sourdough discard and then just pour oil, water, and salt in it until I get to the consistency that I want. So I have not made them just from straight flour before, so we will see. I think maybe just a little bit thinner. That was 1 1/3, 1 2/3. That was 1 2/3 water. Nah, I feel like that's good. Yes, I think that's fine. Okay, my cast iron pan has been heating over here. I just want to make sure I have enough oil. There we go. Let's try this out. I'm gonna do 1/3 cup of mixture. Oops. I think we might need it to be a little thinner. Okay. Huh. Well, for our tester, that wasn't terrible. Okay, I just pulled this one off. It's okay. The taste is fine. Not super impressed with the texture, so I'm gonna thin out the mix a little bit more. Just shy of another 1/3 cup. I felt like a full, I think I added 4 more tablespoons of water. I don't know, but let's give it another shot. And then let's spread it out this way. Huh, maybe that might be better. We'll see. Okay, that one's better. Still pliable. I'm gonna put these in a towel to keep them warm and hopefully keep them from getting hard. And I'm gonna make the rest of them. Okay, so here are all of our flatbreads. Let's see, we got 1, 2. This is a really small one and this is a really big one. I wanted to do kind of a wrap for one and try that out. So this would have made 2 normal size ones if I did that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 plus the one, plus the first tester would be 10. And then there was another one that I did that kind of got messed up. So like 11 fajita-sized tortillas. Not bad. So let's see how they turn into a sandwich. All right, so I've got my wrap here. It is still kind of warm. And I'm gonna get some turkey now. And this is really good quality turkey too, so I'm glad that I found this. I'm just gonna do 3 slices of that. I'm gonna go wash off some lettuce. I really need to get a salad spinner, even just a cheap one. Okay, got that. I've got a few pickles left. I threw the rest of my cucumber into that brine as well. I'm gonna let that soak over. And some onion. Ooh, I need to get mustard. I keep forgetting to put that on my list. Okay, let's just see how this folds over. My husband said he wants his like hot. So I'm gonna take the rest of the turkey and chop it up on the stove and add some cheese and then make them into like almost quesadilla style. So I'm gonna chop up some onions in his, and then the kids are just gonna have theirs, like I said, kind of like a cheese and meat quesadilla. And here's my little wrap. Look at that. That actually looks really good. I'm impressed that it held together. I mean, it's kind of stretchy and it's not looking like it's gonna tear. I hope the flavor's good. And then for a side for this, I still have some chips left. These mostly got eaten over the weekend, just during snacks and TV time and stuff. So those will be for the kids and my husband. I don't really care for that. And then I'm gonna have this, and then if I'm still hungry, I'll probably make another tortilla with just some cheese and do a cheese tortilla or something. But honestly, I'm really impressed. These don't have much flavor, but they hold everything together really well, and the texture is not super weird or anything. So definitely recommend these. Okay, so here is my husband's. I'm making it kind of like a quesadilla. He said that's how he wanted it. So there is mozzarella cheese and turkey and onion in there. And then I'll probably just slice this into quarters. And the kids, I just left there. Oop, that wasn't ready. We'll see if this gets crispy at all. I might need a little bit more. I might need a little more margarine or oil on there to see if I can get it crisped up. And the kids, I just have a piece of turkey, piece of cheese, folded over and warmed up. And that's what they're having. And then chips with all of this. All right, so this is what I have left for pantry stable items at the end of week 2. There's only like a cup of flour in here, so I need more of that. Not a lot of rice. There's only a couple cups of rice in there. Pinto beans, most of those are still in there. We only cooked some pinto beans once and then used them for multiple meals. We've got ketchup. We've got syrup, getting towards the bottom of that oil. Brown sugar. There's like half of this peanut butter left. Vinegar. Grits. I know that it doesn't look like we've eaten that much of them, but we've eaten grits so many mornings. 1 serving of grits is only 3 tablespoons of this. They really, really bulk up. And I make them with mostly water, and then when they're getting close to done, I add milk and butter just to flavor them up, and some salt. And that's how we like ours. There's a couple of tortillas in here. Most of the salt still. And then for our seasonings, we still have a pretty big amount of the chicken bouillon powder. We've got oregano, cumin, garlic powder. This is, I think there's probably like a third of this left. This is the lowest one we've got. Salt and pepper, baking powder, cinnamon, paprika, and chili powder. So we have a pretty good amount of pantry items to roll over. I do have my list for tomorrow to start adding some more stuff into this. And here are my perishables that I have left over. I forgot to mention in the pantry items, this is before dinner. I have not made dinner yet tonight, Tuesday night, because I knew I was going to be way too tired after dinner to go through all of this, and it's not going to change too much. But I've got a little bit of peas. I've got a little bit of broccoli. It's probably like 10 ounces or so.
I've got 3 chicken breasts in there. I'm going to use 2 of these tonight, I think. A head of romaine, that other half of ground turkey, carrots, tomato paste. This is those butter noodles that the kids did not eat all of. I have a little bit of cheese, a little bit of milk, chicken broth. I'm going to use this tonight. Pickles, like I said earlier, I cut up the rest of the cucumber and put it in here because it was starting to get a little softer, and this helps preserve them longer. Mayonnaise, soy sauce, the jalapeno salsa, some pepperonis. We've got a stick and a half of margarine, 1 1/4 onions. We've still got some pickled onion left. And then this is my cutoffs from my green onion, because when she gets too high and they start breaking off, I just cut it off and wrapped them in a little towel and put them in my crisper. And those are still growing, going strong. I change the water like every other day. And then this I have in the fridge because I accidentally cut a little piece of it off, and I didn't want it coming into contact with moisture sitting out, so these are in the fridge. I did not make as much bread this week as I made the previous week, obviously. But anyways, that's everything I got. So subtract, I think, probably the broccoli, some chicken, some of the rice from earlier, the chicken broth, and maybe that's it. I don't know. Oh, and some cheese. I'm gonna make a cheesy chicken casserole, I think, for dinner tonight. Maybe with some carrots on the side. I don't know. We'll see. But that'll be the end of it. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to go grocery shopping. And cream cheese. I keep forgetting I bought this, which is why I haven't even opened it yet. I keep thinking it was from before this, and I'm not trying to use anything that I already had in my fridge. So this is in there too. Tonight for dinner, we are going to make cheesy chicken and rice casserole. But I'm just going to do all of it in my Dutch oven. I'm going to melt down, this is right around 3.5 tablespoons of margarine. It's just the rest of a stick that I had. And then I'm going to add in a couple tablespoons of flour and get that stirred in nice. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more flour and let this cook all the way through. Then next, I'm gonna start slowly adding some of this chicken broth. I just need to make sure this is combined really well so that there's no lumps. Okay, that's good. And then I'm just gonna let this simmer for a while and thicken up until it's more like a paste. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. And this is cooked down nicely. It's pretty much like really thin mashed potatoes. And then I'm gonna add some milk. There's a lot of really great step-by-step recipes for cream of chicken, cream of mushroom, cream of broccoli, anything like that, which is why I'm not doing exact measurements. But if you are unsure how to make a cream of soup from scratch, there are a ton of great references online. If I remember at the time of editing and posting this, I will make sure to link one down below for you. I do want this to have a little bit more of a chicken flavor, so I crushed up this as best as I could. You kind of need to break it up by hand. This is when the powdered bouillon powder comes in handy, but this will be all right. I think the taste is great now, so I'm going to add all of my seasonings and any extras before I put my rice in. I'm also going to turn off my heat because I don't need this to cook for much longer. All of this is going to go in the oven. So this is the rest of that onion and 1 small carrot, blitzed up really small. I mean, as small as I could really get it, in a manual chopper. And there's about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice in here as well. I'm also going to add some black pepper, some garlic powder, oops, that lid's about to break off, and some oregano. Hopefully those carrots and onions will break down a little bit more in the oven while they're cooking. And then lastly, I have 3 cups of liquid. I just used the rest of the chicken broth, which was just shy of 2 cups. It was like 1 3/4 cups. And then I did the rest milk, and I'm gonna add that in here. Make sure everything's combined really well. My oven, meanwhile, is preheating to 350 degrees. And then I'm gonna go in with 1.5 cups of rice. And no, I didn't rinse it. Honestly, I'm just being really lazy. I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, give that a stir. I also shredded up the rest of that cheddar cheese block. So I'm gonna stir that in here. That was only part of the cheese. And then these chicken breasts, I'm just gonna lay here on top into the liquid. I'm using 2 of them, and then I still have 1 smaller one left. I'll probably use for lunch tomorrow. I seasoned this with salt, pepper, garlic powder, paprika, and oregano. And then the rest of the cheese is going on top. All right, I'm just gonna top it with a little bit of paprika and a little bit of oregano for color. I'm gonna put the lid on, and this is going in a 350 degree oven for about an hour and a half. Probably that's minimum. I'm thinking it's gonna take closer to 2 because of how deep it is, but we will see. And this is her pulled out of the oven. A lot of the cheese melted into the liquids before it really got started, and I wasn't thinking of that when I put the cheese on right away. Usually with a casserole, the rice is going to be sitting closer to the top, which is why we got a little film of cheese grease there on top. But this side looks amazing, and the cheese on that chicken looks awesome. I'm going to let this rest for a few minutes, and then we'll be ready to eat. I have the rest of that bag of broccoli in my air fryer, just seasoned it with some oil, salt, and pepper. And then that rice, I cooked it for an hour and 20 minutes at 350, and then I took the lid off, kept it at 350, no broil or anything, and I cooked it for another 20 minutes. So that's how long that took in my Dutch oven. This is my plate. It looks really good. I'm super excited to eat it. I think I'm gonna put some of that jalapeno hot sauce on top. I think that sounds good. But this is dinner. All right, everybody, that's all I've got for you today. I really hope that you enjoyed part 2 of my starting from scratch series. I know these videos are really long, so I appreciate you sticking around until the end. I really hope to see you next week for part 3. If you're not subscribed already, make sure you hit that button so you don't miss out on the notification for that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I love feedback, and the same thing I said last week, I really want us helping each other out in the comments. And it doesn't have to be tips or experiences directed towards me. I've seen a lot of really great ideas, tips, tricks, recipes that people have shared when they went through a really hard time. And I love that about this community, so I would like to keep it going, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.